Welcome to the KIMIYA Healing Podcast. Today we're going to be doing a practice to connect us with the pelvic floor and also allow us to release stress and trauma imprints that are being held in the pelvic floor, often after periods of exhaustion or stress or body neglect, or indeed if there has been womb trauma of any sort. So the first thing I'd like to say is that this is a practice that you can do any time of the day, is absolutely and perfectly safe. And this guided practice is going to help you to connect deeper with the physical sensations of your pelvic floor and also of the energetics of your pelvic floor. You're going to be using a combination of visualization and also breath work. And the breath is really, really important here because your diaphragm and your pelvic floor are inherently connected and they will mirror each other. So as you seek to embrace your pelvic floor, to soften and to create a expansiveness and a beautiful seat for your being to rest in, your breath is actually going to reflect that, and you're going to be learning the power of your breath as we do this practice. The first thing you want to do is lie down and get comfortable, or you can take a seated position. I quite like to sit cross-legged and make sure I have a spine that feels like it's tall and upright, and I'm really able to expand my diaphragm and really take in big, deep breaths. And so if you're lying down, you can do the same. You can just start to take some deeper breaths. And as you breathe, you're bearing in mind that you inherently have this capacity, this connection to your pelvic floor. Whether or not it's immediately obvious and you can feel it straight away, or whether it takes some time to come into your felt sense awareness, you do have a capacity to connect deeply with this part of you. And whether you're a man or a woman or non-binary, you have a pelvic floor that is inherently important for your physiological and mental health, and you can connect to this part of yourself and feel it within you. So men also can feel pelvic floor and energetically as well, the imprints that are held there in that space. And what we're feeling for are patterns of contraction, patterns of twisting, contortion, patterns of density. Energetically, we're feeling for also nerve impulses that we might sense, the electrical impulses up the body or down through the groin, through the genitals. So you're feeling through this practice every subtle sensation, bringing awareness to it. Whatever you feel, I want you to allow yourself to embrace and accept and trust as a healing sensation. So don't judge any sensation that comes. Try for this practice not to evaluate too much and try to understand why that feels the way it feels. This is a practice to soften and melt and expand the pelvic floor, which can really facilitate the release of stress and trauma. So, let's get started. So as I'm sitting and breathing, I start to bring my awareness down my body, into my root space, into my groin area, into my thighs. And then I gradually just start to allow my pelvic floor to come into my awareness. As I do that, I start to feel and embrace sensation. So take your time, just traveling down your body, just becoming openly curious, staying compassionate and feeling what kind of sensations are emerging in the root space, what kind of movement patterns are there. You might be feeling your psoas muscles in particular, if they're tight. Usually one side is tighter than the other, so you can just breathe through that. The psoas muscles are inside the inner thighs, just feeling. You might also feel your genitals, just feeling your yoni just spiraling. Any sensation and all sensation, let's make it acceptable. As you just start to drop deeper inside your body, you can gently seek the pelvic floor. You will know when you have that connection with your pelvic floor. When you feel it, you might notice sensation in your throat. You might notice your breathing changes, or the atmosphere within and around you changes, and you feel this sense of, oh, is that who I am? Is that where I am? Pelvic floor is such a powerful mirror of our consciousness. How we relate to our sexual energy, to our creative life force, to creativity here on earth. Start to visualize the pelvic floor just as a soft band of muscle that's trying its best to support you. And just start to exhale down into this band, exhaling through the nose, noticing how it vibrates, how it moves, and with every exhale, sinking your body weight, becoming heavier and heavier, and trying to still and soften the pelvic floor. If you're aware that perhaps the left side of your pelvic floor feels more active than the right side, or maybe the right side feels more active, just become aware that your pelvic floor is reflecting and mirroring back at you. Beautiful opportunity to step deeper into your feminine and masculine aspects. So if the left side is tight, that's your feminine side. If the right side is tight, that's a call to deepen in your masculine energy. Ultimately, we're looking for balance, so you can just feel in now to the pelvic floor. By now, you're going to notice, okay, there is a bit more of a balance emerging, a bit more of a harmony. I do feel a bit more even. The more you do this, along with structural work to keep your pelvis aligned and to release any structural issues or fascial containment that you have in any of the hip joints, what you're going to notice is that relaxing, softening and stilling your pelvic floor becomes easier because you don't have any structural blockages. Similarly, when you start to release your trauma and emotions start to move and flow through you, and fear starts to dissipate and turn to love in your body and in your heart, you will access your pelvic floor with greater ease. So wherever you are, you're just taking into your own awareness what your pelvic floor is showing you about where you are right now and what you need. If the sensation is fast, you're noticing lots of whirring and spiraling and movements that maybe feel a bit chaotic, this is a chance for you to go deeper. As you deepen, things will slow down. Those superficial sensations will slow down because you will access deeper levels of information and intelligence. So slow down, feel, and ask yourself, what does each tiny, subtle contraction mean for me? does each tiny, subtle expansion mean for me? And you'll know what it means when you go inside. When you find a resting place inside each contraction, each tiny impulse, you will soon find yourself resting on the surface of the ocean. The still waters and the moonlight will emerge. Feel the stillness in your pelvic floor. And you can visualize yourself too, just floating on top of the ocean, supported and held by all of the ocean. And just gently thanking your pelvic floor for being in presence with you, for allowing you this powerful practice. And remember that you can do this as many times throughout the day that you need to. This is a great practice to do before you go to bed. It's also a very powerful practice to do before you are having any type of intimacy, just to get you in the space of real presence with yourself. If you do this practice and you notice that you're feeling very uncomfortable, or you're feeling like your body's overheating and you're starting to get emotional, or there's sensations in the pelvic floor that feel very disturbing to you or are affecting you, then it's probably going to be a trauma imprint that's coming up to the surface. The best thing you can do if you do notice that is to slowly bring yourself into a place where you can be either compassionate with the inquiry, asking what you're being shown. If you feel strong enough to do that, you can also allow yourself to access the emotion that's arising, allow yourself to express that. Or you can breathe through and slowly ask the pelvic floor to just make things a little bit more gentle. You can just say to your own pelvic floor, you're feeling a bit maybe overwhelmed and you want to slow things down. And then you can, if you need to, slowly bring yourself out of the practice. The reason why you would be overwhelmed with a practice like this, and it does happen, it's completely natural. If there is womb trauma, there's been sexual trauma, this may trigger those unconscious imprints and sensations in your body, in your nervous system. So it's nothing for you to worry about, but if you do want to contact me and get in touch and do some one-to-one healing work, then just reach out on my website, KIMIYAhealing.co.uk. You can also read about the womb, sexual trauma, healing, womb, and lots of other womb-related resources on my website. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoy this practice of meeting your sacred pelvic floor.